I was told for years that my pain was normal and that there was nothing wrong with me by doctors. I think I just knew the whole time that there was more to the story and I needed to get down to the bottom of it. For so long trying to figure out what really was wrong with me, why my periods were so excruciating and painful. And finally, welcome to my channel. Hi, I'm Molly. I live in Bali, but I'm from the UK. And I have endometriosis. When I was younger, I first started off with just severe pains. My periods just started being really uncomfortable. Every month I'd be dreading it. Over the course of the next like 4 or 5 years, it started to get a lot worse, and I was admitted to hospital, I believe, around 5 times because of the pain and the amount of blood loss I was having, the amount I was struggling on a day-to-day basis with my endo. Obviously at the time I hadn't been diagnosed, we didn't know what was wrong with me, but I went into the doctors. They did turn me away on several occasions, was just like, let's go on the pill, let's do this. And the pill for me just does not agree with me. Like, my mood makes me like literally feel like I can't get out of bed in the morning, so that never ever worked for me. And they just constantly want to be putting me on tablets without actually checking what was really wrong. The pain levels, I would say I'd be throwing up in the toilet because of the amount of pain I was in, and then I'd just pass out. The blood loss to the point where my mum's had to shower me because there's been so much blood. It looks like someone could have stabbed me, to be honest. Like, that's really not me being dramatic. The just excruciating pain. My dad would have to come home from work and like literally lay in bed with me while I cried because I was in absolute agony. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to pass out. I was getting hot flushes. It really, the cramping just like, it took over my whole body. And there's been several times where, I don't know if it was something to do with circulation, the doctors really weren't helpful when it happened, but I'd been admitted to hospital several times because the pain got so bad. I'd pass out and my lips would go blue, and I would just not even be able to speak to people or see. It was like I was looking through people, and that's just like the extent of how bad the pains can be. And I am not, like, I've got quite a high tolerance to pain. It really doesn't bother me. And they were probably my most extreme symptoms, but also just cramping in between periods and just feeling really low in myself. Like, I wouldn't wake up happy. I wouldn't get out of bed till 12 p.m. I didn't want to do anything all day. Even just going on a walk seemed like the hardest. After several years of dealing with this, I went into the hospital again because I'd passed out. I was in an absolute state, and spoke to the doctor, and they finally said, okay, we're going to put you forward to speak to a gynecologist and just get some more tests. Which, when they said that to me, was the best thing ever. Like, I'd been waiting years for them to actually do something. All they would do when I went there was put me on an IV drip, say I'm dehydrated, and recommend the pill. That was all I ever got whenever I'd go to hospital. So this one time, several years ago, they finally said, okay, we're gonna put you towards gynecology. So a couple months go by, I finally get to see the gynecologist, and the actual gynecologist I was meant to be seeing was off sick, and it was a male gynecologist. And we were speaking, he was asking me some questions, and I explained all my symptoms, how bad it was. He said, I can see you've been in hospital several times. He said to me, well, I'm sure it's probably manageable. And I said, well, it's really not. And I also said to him, like, the amount of bleeding, I just don't, like, it's not normal. I've got an older sister. I know she says it's not normal. My mum says it's not normal. I shouldn't be bleeding this much on my period. He went, okay, cool. Like, well, you know, it's normal to bleed. I went, no, I am bleeding, but the amount I'm bleeding is insane. I said, look, I've got photos. It's not showing anything other than blood. Can you please just take a look so you can see the extent? And he basically said, no, I don't need to look at that. Just thought, what do you mean you don't need to look at that? Okay, thank you, sir. And he basically said, what we're going to do is we're going to recommend you the pill again. We think you should go back onto that, and also we're going to put you on tranexamic acid, which is basically, I think it's blood thickeners or blood stoppers. It's what they give you when someone's having a nosebleed and it doesn't stop. It's what they gave me for that. So I was like, brilliant, that will help the bleeding, I guess. They sent me away. I started taking the tranexamic acids, and yes, the blood wasn't as heavy. It was still very heavy, but wasn't as heavy. However, the pains were just as excruciating, and I didn't go on the pill. There was no way I was going to do that. I already told him that was not an option for me, and he said I should be on it. But anyway, so it was back and forth for months and months and months, and finally I got to actually sit down with my proper gynecologist when she was back. She said, okay, well, these obviously aren't working. What we're going to do is we're going to put forward for the endo surgery, which is basically a laparoscopic surgery where they take out the endometriosis in your stomach. She said, first what we need to do is we need to do an internal scan. So I go in a couple of weeks later and have my internal scan. It was a very uncomfortable experience. It was two men that didn't really speak much English, putting something in there to scan inside my uterus, and they literally were talking to each other and not speaking to me, and I was looking at them and I was like, what's going on? And they were just like, it was just a really uncomfortable situation. There was like, it just didn't feel right. I felt like they were laughing and I just thought, this is so weird. Finished my exam, a couple weeks go by, finally get my results. They can't actually tell whether you've got endo from an internal scan because it's tissue. So they basically said it does look like there's a buildup of something. You've also got something called a polyp, which is like a sort of extra skin. Also, they didn't really explain any of this to me, to be honest. And several cysts near your ovaries. So I was like, that sounds lovely. A couple months go by again. I'm having excruciating periods, and I mean like so bad. The tablets for the blood stoppers aren't working as well. The bleeding is just so heavy. I finally get a date for my surgery, and I'm just so excited to have it. Like I didn't even feel nervous at this point because I was like, I'm so ready just to have this. I go in for my surgery, they put me to sleep. I wake up and I don't know what that feeling was. I was laid there, I was shaking when I woke up, and like it all came and hit me like a truck, and I was so scared they were going to tell me you don't have endo and we don't know what's the problem with you. And I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, they're going to tell me I don't have it. And she said to me, she goes, we found you've got endo. I was like, and I just burst into tears. Like I was a mess. I couldn't stop crying just because I felt so happy that finally I'd been given some sort of diagnosis. I go into the room, I've calmed down, and they basically say to me, so you had really like quite a lot of endo, and we have removed as much of it as we can, but some of it was in areas where we wouldn't want to remove, where your tubes are or ovaries. It's just not safe to remove, but we have removed as much as possible. This is what my stomach looked like after the surgery. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't comfortable. I got home, and because they fill you with so much gas, it's just like you're so bloated, and like it's like all trapped wind. So I remember just laying in bed screaming in pain because it was excruciating. It wanted to come out and you just can't get it out because it's been put in there. So over the next couple of days, I'm like letting a lot of air out, finally starting to feel a little bit better, but it does take, I mean, probably at least a week, maybe 2 weeks until all that air's out. Like you do feel very bloated. Scarring, it was very sore. Wasn't a comfortable recovery, but it was okay, like it was bearable. You just can't really do much. After 2 weeks, my mum and dad went away on holiday and I was left to my own devices. I was so bored from sitting inside. I actually moved all my stuff from my bedroom into the spare bedroom, redesigned it, and then I almost fainted because it was way too much on my body too soon after surgery. So I do not recommend. Just sit, relax, drink peppermint tea. One thing I also did a lot of research on was what I'm eating for after my surgery, and also how not to have endo grow back. So the doctors told me going on the pill helps. I did actually go on the pill for a little bit and it was okay, but I did have to come off it after a while. It just really doesn't agree with me. Another thing is eating really anti-inflammatory. So a lot of my meals consisted with sweet potato because that's such a good anti-inflammatory. Avocado, salmon. I was drinking a lot of ginger tea. I made broths, like just anything. Even now I try eat so anti-inflammatory. Here are some examples of an anti-inflammatory diet. If you stick to this, I can tell you this does help. This is probably my biggest tip. I can tell if I'm not eating anti-inflammatory that month or just before my period, it's going to be more painful. Anyway, so I started recovering and I was having my periods and they were painless. There was literally barely any pain. The odd smallest cramp, not heavy bleeding really, no blood clots. It was just the best thing. Like, I didn't dread my periods every month. I was so unbothered about the scars. It didn't bother me that they still are here. I've still got my scars. They definitely have gotten better, but I think it's something I'm always going to have a little bit because they haven't healed up the way I wanted. I moved over to Bali and I kept with my as much anti-inflammatory diet, drinking hot teas, especially ginger ones, like I've said, they help. Just being healthy, walking, whole foods. Also, one thing I would like to mention, I have never felt so skinny as after my surgery. Like, after that bloating healed, my, like, where my uterus is, I normally have like a little like pouch. That was gone. It was the best thing ever. A couple of months have gone by, and that comes to where I am now. It has been 6 months since my surgery. My endo has come back, which is really frustrating. It's really frustrating because it's come back very quickly. I spoke to doctors the other day and they haven't even recommended another surgery for me, which, to be honest, would I get another surgery? Probably not, if it's just going to come back in 5 months. I know it seems silly, but having 5-6 months of painless periods and no endo symptoms, to the point my energy was so high, my moods were so good. Like, I just felt amazing in myself. Bloating was at a minimal. I felt skinnier, like I just felt better. And then now it's coming back. These past 2 months, I have just noticed my moods are the biggest mood swings. 1 minute I am so happy, the next minute I literally could cry, or I literally don't want to move from my bed. I have days where I force myself to do things and I am so depleted by the end of the day. There's no energy left in me. One thing I never actually had before, and whether it is to do with my endo, but I have seen that it is actually quite common, is anxiety. I have never ever struggled with anxiety, but within the past 2 months since my endo has come back, I had a massive panic attack, and my nervous system is just up, down, up, down, up, down ever since. My skin has been a roller coaster. I finally got it to a better place. I think it was more to do with my nervous system, which was from my endo, but that was causing more breakouts. I definitely still have breakouts, but I have been on a nervous system journey these past couple weeks. That includes taking magnesium glycinate on a night time. So since my anxiety, this is something I've had to take religiously, but I just really struggle. These are 2 things that have severely helped with the breakouts, with the mood swings. This reishi mushroom, I get it from a shop here in Uluwatu called Town Medicine, and this is what reishi is. So our pure reishi can be used for anxiety, immunity, longevity, and overall health and well-being. It builds QI and blood while calming the nervous system. This I use in the daytime, and it definitely helps. One thing I have had to cut out a lot of the time is coffee, which I am obsessed with coffee, but the way it heightens my anxiety, my skin breaks out more, higher cortisol. I eat within the first hour of waking up, which was something I used to fast all day. Like, during the period where after my surgery, I literally had a matcha and then wouldn't eat till like 3 in the afternoon. Whereas now my endo's come back, I eat 1 slice of sourdough and 2 poached eggs every single morning without fail within the first hour of waking up. And if I do really want a coffee, I will have that after I eat, just to make sure it doesn't rise my cortisol, it doesn't affect my nervous system too much. Another thing I take is Calm Spirit, and this is on a night time with my magnesium. So Calm Spirit aids in anxiety, insomnia, and calms the nervous system to help you feel more grounded and calm. Aim to ensure a deep night's rest rather than making you drowsy. Calm Spirit is a natural alternative to sleep aids. Because another thing with the anxiety and the nervous system, I was just not sleeping at all. So what I just do on a night time, and with the reishi mushroom, you can either put 25 drops into a drink, or I just put it under my tongue for 30 seconds, do 25 drops and swallow. It doesn't taste amazing, but it definitely helps. So that's my main tips, is magnesium on a night time. Any of these, if you can get hold of it. calming your nervous system, coffee, eating early, just any of these things will help with some of the symptoms of endo. Pain wise, monthly, nothing is helping. It is back to being very severe. I was almost passing out on my last period, which isn't nice, not when I'm living in Bali and I don't really have access to particular doctors. But what I am actually going to do is go see some natural medicine healers, doctors here, to see if I can figure out more of a natural route to fixing and just coping with my endo every month. Tablet wise, cocodamol is something I am on. I try not to take it too often because it's an addictive thing, codeine. And then obviously paracetamol and ibuprofen. However, ibuprofen I'm not really recommended to take because when I was younger I grew up with a blood disorder. It's called HSP, so they don't really recommend me ibuprofen. But yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster, and I can understand, girls, if you do have these painful periods, you have to fight with the doctors. You have to tell them exactly how you're feeling. You have to lay it on thick. Like, obviously what's true, tell them what's true, but lay it onto them. Don't go, oh yeah, like it is painful. Don't be shy. Like, you have to tell them how bad it is. If it's something you're really struggling with, you have to tell them. It's definitely still a battle for me, the fact it is coming back. I'm going home I'm leaving Bali in, I think, June for a couple weeks, so I'm trying to organise a visit with my gyno then anyway. I had a call with my gynecologist the other day. I explained how my symptoms are all coming back and how it is actually a lot worse than before. So not necessarily the pains are probably on par with how it was before my surgery, but the actual day-to-day symptoms, the anxiety, the skin, the mood swings are so heightened. And that's what's frustrated me the most, is that I had this surgery, I felt better, and then it's actually come back worse in some ways. I think my body's relearning and my nervous system is relearning having endo and all the things that come with it. So over the years, when I was having it when I was younger and it lasted a longer period of time and it was growing in me slowly, it didn't come on at its full force. Whereas now it's just like growing back really rapid, everything else is coming with it. So I think that's something you also need to consider when you're having the operation. I know some people for years feel so much better, and just some people it does grow back really quickly, which is really unfortunate. There are other options to go private, which I think is something I'm going to look at when I go back to the UK, but obviously living here in Bali, I can't do that right now. When I spoke to my doctor, she basically said there's the contraceptive you can go back on and see if that helps, which I basically just shut down straight away. She said there's this particular newer tablet that they've been doing, basically puts you into menopause. At 21 years old, they want to give me tablets that basically put your body into menopause. It's got HRT in it, which is what you have when you're going through menopause as an older lady. But at 21, they want to put me into menopause, and they said once you stop taking the tablets, your fertility comes back after around 6 to 12 months. And personally, I want a lot of kids. Endo already can affect your fertility. I just don't know if that's the route I want to go down, mess with fertility and all these things. In the long run, I would love to have kids, and I would be very, very upset if I took tablets like this and it did affect my fertility even more than endo already is. But yeah, I will keep you guys updated with my endo journey. Hopefully I can find some people that really know what they're on about. Thank you for watching. If you girls have any questions about your periods, your endo, need advice, you can DM me on Instagram. And I'm gonna leave below in the description all my tips and tricks, as much information as possible for you. It's really been my endo journey.